3, 2, 1.
Never has there been a better time to be alive in human history. If you're not feeling it, you must discover why. Join Matthew Bolton in developing and applying a framework of objective optimism toward a flourishing life of meaning, health, and happiness. Here's your host, Matthew Bolton.
Hi everybody, welcome to Mr. Brightside. I'm Matthew Bolton. Today's show is an interview with guest Scott Lee. Scott is the founder and CEO of Gooroo, which is an educational app you're going to learn all about. It's a fantastic product. It's exciting prospects and vision for the future that Scott has, and I'm really excited about it and really behind it after talking with him. Scott himself, you'll learn the way he thinks about education and entrepreneurship and how he wants to help people is very inspiring, and I just enjoyed the conversation so much. It was just such a pleasant, fun, easygoing conversation, yet a lot of strong insight. You'll also be curious to hear us talk about Korean military service and his experience in that, the mandatory 2-year period that Korean males have to serve to the country. He was in the States and came back and fulfilled that. And he'll tell you a bit about that and what it taught him, and I think it's a great chance for people who are not familiar with that culture and to learn about, to get some insight into that as well. If you're a student of mine watching this, pay attention to this guy, because this is a great example of what it means to think outside of where you were born and the potential of the global world that's out there and the opportunities and great things that are there for you if you take on the right perspective to look at the positives and make the most of any situation you're in and learn from it. I won't go on too much because it's all in the interview. I just had a great time talking to Scott. I really appreciate him coming on, and I hope you guys really enjoy this interview. It was a good one. Hi, everybody. Welcome now to our interview. I'm joined by Scott Lee. Gooroo founder and CEO Scott Lee is on a mission to reimagine education, unlock every student's potential, and promote lifelong learning for all. Born in Seoul, South Korea, Scott relocated to the United States with his family at the age of 16 without knowing a word of English. Not a word, Scott? Not a word?
I think a few words,
Yeah.
and I came alone without my family. So it was
Wow.
a little bit harder. Yeah.
That's very exciting. And I'm going to ask you about that stuff. So
Gotcha.
This is great.
No worries.
Through constant support from his parents and with the help of tutors and mentors, he worked hard and constantly challenged himself to succeed. As a Columbia University student majoring in operations research, engineering management systems, Scott was required to take a break from formal education to enlist in the South Korean Army, where he served as a sergeant and squad leader. Nearly 2 years removed from the college classroom setting, Scott returned to Columbia and immediately recognized that he needed tutoring support to get ahead in his classes. However, he found it difficult to find a quality tutor that could offer the individualized instruction he desired. Thus, the idea for Gooroo was born, a next-generation AI-powered tutoring and learning platform with a strong focus on personalization. While the Gooroo platform was materializing, Scott worked as a senior treasury analyst at JP Morgan's Chase's Chief Investment Office. Previously, he had founded PeerTutor, a nonprofit platform that connected underserved children with over 7,000 English tutor volunteers, and Mud Cafe, a niche online fashion retailer. Gooroo was ultimately established in 2015. Scott is heavily involved in philanthropy, including his work in Compassion International, where he personally sponsors 6 children from Indonesia, Ghana, Peru, the Philippines, and the Dominican Republic, so they have access to proper education and health care. Scott, together with Gooroo COO Phil Huang, also spearheaded Gooroo's partnership with Books for Africa, where one book is donated for every Gooroo session scheduled. Scott, thanks very much for coming on here.
Of course, my pleasure.
How do you have the time? I mean, you know, you're a busy man and have done a lot, and it's very exciting. I'd love to talk to you a lot about it.
Yeah, it's a great to be here. I think, so many people since the day one in the US and day one at Gooroo, many people have supported me to get to where we are. So yeah, I'm happy to chat more about it today.
Excellent. Well, I'll start off. I want to talk to you about Gooroo to start off. What is Gooroo, and what does it bring to the table that hasn't been done before?
Yeah, so we started as a Uber for tutors. So we have thousands of qualified tutors, and within a few clicks, you will be, with our matching algorithm, you will find the perfect fit, determining with learning styles, where you're located, and what kind of learning pace you have. we will find the right fit immediately so that you don't have to go through thousands of tutors and Craigslist or many different ways. So it's very efficient way for us to match with a perfect tutor. And after each tutoring session, we provide thorough feedback so that parents and students are aware what's going on, and we know more about each individual student's learning style so that we can personalize learning for them.
All right, that sounds excellent. Thank you. And just can you describe your experience after returning to Colombia and how it led you to develop? Like, so you mentioned you had trouble finding a tutor, etc. Can you describe that?
Yeah, of course. So, I was born and raised in Korea. I came here when I was 16. In Korea, tutoring centers are everywhere. Probably, Matt, you probably know Korean education system is very, very competitive. If you walk down the street, you will see tens of tutoring centers all over the city.
Yeah.
And in US, I mean, I went to Columbia, so I was in New York City. I was so surprised that there were not that many learning centers or tutoring centers that I can reach out to. So, when I was in the army for 2 years, I was in mountain, didn't speak English at all. My brain wasn't functioning as likely as I wanted to be. So when I come back to the school, they're very, very competitive, but I had a 2 years gap. So, okay, I need help with, statistics, very high level statistics. And I really had a tough time finding a platform for me to find someone that I can trust. It was either Craigslist or tutoring center very far away who overcharged significantly. So I thought there was a huge opportunity and inefficiency in the market.
All right, then. Just a side one. How was the name developed? Gooroo. What's that?
Yeah, as like many other startups, when you start, you try to figure out what would be the good name, and we always vision Gooroo, the teachers to inspire, tutors to inspire, not just teaching how to do well in school or like quizzes or tests. We always wanted our gurus to inspire our students to dream big and really become someone that they never even imagined before they meet Gooroo. So it's Gooroo, Guru. It's like a mentor, and then we transition to Gooroo.
Just to make it more fun sounding or something.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Man. It's anyway. That's I love the sound of that. Great. So you were working at JP Morgan as a senior treasury analyst. How does one build a side hustle while doing responsible work at such a big company? How do you do all that?
I think I do believe that a try and error and trying different things makes help you know who you are. I think that's extremely important. And I did a few startups like nonprofit and niche fashion retailer before JP Morgan. So I knew, I have a passion in entrepreneurship, and I love building something out of nothing. But I never worked in a corporate. So I was like, before I do something big, let's try this corporate job. And that's how I reach out to. I reach out to hundreds of people through LinkedIn and alumni, and there are a lot of networking. Actually, in my senior year, which really helped me when I was doing fundraising. So that experience was extremely valuable. But I got a job in JP Morgan, and immediately, in the first month, I knew this is not what I'm looking for. And so I think it just, I think a lot of recent grads right now, they're really struggling to find a job because of COVID. But I think that, even though it might not be you think it's not a perfect job, you learn that what you're more passionate about by trying different things and fail. So I think that, the corporate job very briefly was a year, but actually I found few angel investors through that network. So it was extremely valuable experience, and I learned that how big corporate works, and I learned about stock market. I learned about many structured products. So I do believe I learned significantly within a year about more about the big picture, how the financial market works, and a lot of great people, mentors, and who became one of our angel investors, many of our angel investors from that network. So that was a great experience.
I really appreciate that story, Scott. I teach at a university nearby here, and I tell my students all the time, like, you just take a job. Like, you get a job at some place. Don't be sitting there thinking, oh, I want to work at this one and, hang out for 5 years studying more. Get a job, get out there, because you're going to get the experience in something. At least discover what you don't like, or discover what parts of it you like. Learn about how business works, how the world works, and, as you said, make connections as well. There's all kinds of advantages. So I think a lot of people are waiting for their thing before they even take a job. I'm like, just take a job, say yes. You don't have to stay there.
I completely agree, Matt. I mean, I'm a huge advocate of what you said. I think every experience matters and really reshape who you are. Especially, like a lot of American students, they don't go to the army, so it's not like they not waste. Okay, let me rephrase this. They don't have to. Yeah,
we'll talk all about that in a bit.
Got it. So yeah, I completely agree. Every experience matters. It's just all about your attitude. Your attitude when you go there every day. I think we're gonna talk about humility too. Just be humble.
I have some of that.
Every person you can learn from, and every experience you can apply. So I think I agree. I completely agree with you, Matt.
All right, I got it. What does it take to run a startup in general, then?
Running a startup is a humbling experience. A lot of things that you thought you're good at, actually you're not. So, I failed so many times. And I think what's important to think about is you grow with your own startup, and you grow with your team. I think that it's all about persistency, and it's all about resilience. And I think it's a matter of who you're as again the positive attitude that you have to bring to the game, because you will very likely, especially for a startup, you will fail. Very, very likely.
It's almost inevitable.
Inevitable. It's a lot of pivoting, a lot of team building. It's and also I think most important thing is you have to ask yourself, are you an innate entrepreneur? Are you a risk taker? Would you sleep well at night? Because every day will be a struggle, every day you will face a problem. Are you willing to take that and enjoy that challenge every day? If not, then you might have to think about if it's a good it's a good idea to start a company. So I think it's before you do that, I always say start small. It doesn't have to be a tech startup. Tech startup is extremely difficult because you are combining people from tech, designer, business. It's very, very different people. It's extremely hard to make synergy among them. So you can start small. You can even sell very basic things based on so it's a very low downside, but you can learn that if you are talented at starting a business. So yeah, that's a long answer, but yeah.
No, we're here for long answers. I want to hear you and pick your mind, man. We want to hear this stuff. I think that I hear a lot of that. I think people think, that it sounds like cool to be doing something like that, or it sounds like that'll make me seem successful or something, but they don't really care about it. They're not necessarily talented for it, or they're not really able to take on risk or have the resilience to do it. So I think people kind of have to ask themselves those questions, because for some people it may be better to just be in a company, be a good team member in a company. That's maybe the best life for you. You don't have to be the leader in everything. So
I completely agree. What I learned the most in Columbia, it was Lean Launchpad class. It was a Columbia business class. I was very accidentally took it because I was doing a lot of startup things. So I had to take many, many classes. My last semester, like 8 classes to graduate. So I had to take that class during winter break. And that's actually one of the most impactful, like what impacted me the most. And the professor told me that if you want to make money, you rather just drive yellow cab than do a startup. Probability wise, you will make more money driving yellow cab. So, and maybe I don't know where he get that idea from, but that's how hard if you are wanting to just make money, the risk is too high,
Yeah.
So you you have to enjoy it because every moment will be a challenge.
There's a key. You have to enjoy what you're doing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, I did skip a little bit over the part. Earlier we talked about you came over when you didn't know much at 16, right? So how did you feel when you first moved to the States? Can you describe some of your experiences at 16 and what you thought without your parents, you said?
Yeah, very, very fortunately, my parents sent me to US when I was a kid, like when I was like 7, for summer camp in Idaho.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was like a few times, like 7th, 1st grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, just alone in Idaho. And because my first English teacher was there, so she just sent me and then homestay without speaking English. So, but I had a very wonderful experience, like playing soccer and having a fun in Idaho. And I still contact my teacher. She's Mrs. Buckendorf. She's my like American mom. She calls me Korean son all the time. But
Excellent.
I think I have a beautiful like image about America, my American friends. We still chat with a few of them. So I didn't had a fear to like make friends, or I think I'm very adaptable. So I think thankfully I didn't have a fear coming in alone. And I had I went to Avon Farm School. It's the school in Connecticut. It's a beautiful like community. It was all boys school. And surprisingly, they're so welcoming that I became like the class president when I first when I first arrived. And honestly, my friends telling me like, oh, I didn't know what you're talking like it was 8 people running for president, and I was like, oh, I have no idea what you're talking about. You seem very nice and confident, so I vote for you. So yeah, it's like very nice people. And I was very, very lucky. And so yeah, I'm very thankful for that.
Excellent. I mean, you were born in Seoul, right? Like, and yeah. So Seoul's a big, crazy monster city. Like, I mean, and going to Idaho must have just been when you're 7. The very first time must have been. Does places like this exist? Really? I mean, it must have been. But yet you enjoyed yourself getting out and being, living that kind of life. That's great.
Awesome mashed potatoes. I can't forget. It really does. Every dinner almost mashed potato like this big comes in, and I'm like, I loved it.
Those are my veggies when I was young, Scott. It was potatoes and corn. That's it.
Exactly.
Right?
Oh man.
Until I came to Korea. Korea really expanded.
Gravies. Yeah. Good stuff.
You know what you're talking about. Well, just a side one for a little fun. Just your name. You're Scott, but that's not your name, right? What is your Korean name?
Yongbok.
Yongbok. Yeah.
Yongbok.
So Yongbok. So like,
yes.
Why did you get Scott? Because this is a funny thing with me. I think a lot of people at home are like, why did these people change their names? Like, so, and where did you get Scott?
Yeah, I mean, I got it when I was like 3. So I didn't even have a chance to pick. I'm like, Scott, okay. They call me Scott. I'm like, okay. I mean, so it's like similar to how I got my Korean name. My Korean name, I was born and I was calling Yongbok. Like in America, they loved it. They call me like Young Buck, like Young Buck in the house. It's like
Young Buck. That's good.
Yeah, they just like let me rap. Like I was like, I was so confused. So I was like, first year at US, like seniors, like telling me to, Young Buck rap for me. I'm like, I practice rap. So, but it was good way to be closer to my friends. So that was cool.
Yeah, I'm just curious about that. It's a thing maybe of interest to listeners. Just that a lot of Korean people I know, they come to our classes and stuff, and they think they have to have an English name. And I just go, why do you need an English name? They go, because people can't pronounce it or something like that. It'll be hard for them. And I'm like, well, nobody can pronounce my name in Korea. I'm Matthew. Nobody can say TH. It's Matthew, miss you. I don't change my name to Chosu, right? Like I just say, I'm Matthew, and you can say it however you like. So people will call you, hey, Yongbok or something. Like they won't say it properly, but that's fine, right? So anyway, but yours was already given and all that. But I think a lot of people, like when they're already old, they never had an English name, they think as an adult they have to go over and change it to something. And I you know what I'm talking about? Like my uni students never had an English name, and they go, well, if I go to somewhere, I'm going to have to pick a name. What do you think's a good name? And I'm like, just your name's good. Yeah, it's your name.
Yeah, why not?
Anyway, just something that comes up a lot. Excuse me. Um, Back to Gooroo. How important to Gooroo is universally accessible education? It seems like a big value to you.
Yeah, I think the COVID, millions of students, like in I mean 1.3 billion learners are impacted by COVID. And the COVID slide has been serious, very, very serious right now because of the access to the, and they were not able to access to the quality education. So Guru, I think we started this program called Guru Live, which is a free live webinars taught by our top instructors. It's completely free. We wanted to make accessible. We wanted to provide those classes to students who won't be able to pay the virtual tutoring, even though we made 25% discount for all the virtual tutoring sessions because a lot of families are impacted by COVID. We're one of the very few companies who are benefited from COVID, because we now it's a lot of huge demand arises because of the COVID. A tech company like us has been benefited. So, we are socially responsible to really help as many students as possible. And that's why we launched Grow Live. It was hugely successful, a lot of different academic courses, but also like yoga, dancing, there are a lot of cool subjects that we've been able to do so. And even not, we were not stopping there. I mean, we will talk more about it, but we're launching Guru Courses, which is Netflix of educational content. We are recording thousands of courses, like interesting topic, as I mentioned, it can be chess, it can be like, many different interesting courses so that even though students are stuck at home, a lot of them are really, really depressed and having a difficult time. And especially schools are very likely to hybrid or closed in the upcoming months. So we wanted to provide those amazing courses to them, only for $9.99. And one membership, we will donate one membership to underserved children. And we wanted to donate to as many memberships as possible to struggling students all over the states and hopefully all over the world. So I think we are, we take it very seriously, and we really want to make quality education more accessible for all.
Wow, though that sounds very good program and mission. So
thank you.
I don't know if this is the same thing or not, but about equity and diversity. How would you say Guru embodies equity and diversity, and what do you mean by those terms? Is that similar to universally accessible, or?
Yeah, so I think as I mentioned in the beginning, we started as Uber for tutors. So not upper middle class; those people can really afford tutoring. And now I think we wanted to be more accessible and embrace more diversity by providing pre-recorded group courses so that we can help and make a positive impact to millions of students. And I think that it's extremely, extremely important because COVID, I think there is a huge educational gap as well as economy gap. I think that that's a reality, and I think it's really making a lot of people frustrated. And we hear the pain, we hear the frustration from many parents and students we've been having relationship with. That's why we started nonprofit side called Guru Gives Back. And I think we want to make a big impact, and we want to really help them as much as possible. And so we are very, very excited about this initiative, and I think this will be our core business from moving forward.
Excellent. Yeah, because I was kind of confused when it was the Netflix of education. I was curious about that idea because it did occur to me. It seems like more like an Uber, but that which would nothing wrong with being an Uber, right? That would be great if you could develop and become that. But I think this is I get it very clearly now. And what would you see Guru in 5 years? What do you hope for Guru?
I think there are many different ways we can really unlock students' potential. I think not only pre-recorded videos, it can be VR and AR. It can be many different gamified ways. But most importantly, because we have offices in China and Indonesia, we look at the education in more global landscape. And from one membership, our vision that student can learn from instructors, top instructor all over the world. So that it's not just learning knowledge, but also you can learn culture from them, learning different, different perspectives, global perspectives of people. Because my talent can be much more appreciated in different place. And now the future of work will be remote. And so it doesn't really have to be limited to where you live. And so I want people, a lot of underserved children in their neighborhood, the biggest problem is they don't have mentors around them and they don't have access to those network. So if we can build a global network with having access to quality education and instructors all over the world, it will really open the doors, a lot of doors for us, doors for them. So I wanted to create that amazing opportunity and support them throughout their learning journey. And I think not only, limited to K-12 and university, we can definitely help a lot of students with a lot of like people with upskilling. There are huge need in senior citizens because we work with a lot of senior centers. So we really wanted to help them for lifelong learning continuously. And I think that will be, I think it's not, of course, a big project, and it's gonna be, again, a lot of persistency and a lot of resilience. But I think we have an amazing team that we've been working together for over 5 years. We have amazing, supporters who really are excited about our mission. So I think I'm very confident that we can reach our goal.
Well, I'm excited about your mission. I mean, that's something that can help you with the persistence and resilience, because it's something that this is a good value. It's not just selling something that's maybe harmful to people in general, but maybe people like, but it's not necessarily the best thing. This is something that you can get behind. I like a couple other things you're saying. I tell students sometimes that you don't have, like, they're worried about, what am I going to do in Korea? How can I get a job and all that? Like, the whole world's out there. You can go look where I live. Exactly. I don't live in Canada, right? I mean, you don't, I mean, this is where I can do my best. You have to find a place in the world where you can be the most valuable and live your best life, whatever that means, combination of that means. And now you've added a new element to it, which is now it's not even necessarily go there, but you can be remote, but still connect with that. So, I mean, I always get really excited about what the future is. I'm telling them, like, it's going to be awesome. Like, you shouldn't get more stress. You should be less, because there are way more opportunities. As more people are able to connect, it's more likely you'll find something that's for you. So don't be scared of this future. Get excited about it. Like, life's going to be great. You're going to do better, more fun work. You're going to have more variety that you can choose from, of type of work you can do in your future. It's looking good. I mean, other things being equal, I hope as long as we don't get, things don't get shut down and stuff. But as long as people like you are free to provide these opportunities and people are free to take advantage of them, I think there's no stopping us in the future. So I'm generally optimistic, of course, but I'm telling these, but it is about your attitude. I'm telling these students, like, why, it's going to be way better than the opportunities I've had. You're going to have way better ones. So, and
I completely agree. I think that's why, speaking English is very important. I think a lot of Korean students, they're very good at grammar. I mean, it's a tendency of Asian students, because a lot of classroom setting is one-sided. There's no discussion. There's no exchanging ideas. It's very rigid. And I think that really drives, and it doesn't really help with developing curiosity or communication skills. So, I think Asian countries really need to adopt the ways for them to improve their communication skills, especially English. That has been issues for tens of years. So, I think it's a little bit of cultural thing, respecting older people. And I mean, which is, there are pros and pros, but I think that, especially, because I know that huge problem, we will be focusing a lot on, what's the exciting ways for them to do, English ESL, like speaking English. And that will be one of the core projects as well.
Yeah, well, it's really close to me. I mean, my classes are very much about discussion. It's like this is a conversation class. You can take another kind of class, and those are valuable, but that's not what we're doing in this conversation class. It's about open your mouth, let's go, right? And let's discuss
Exactly.
ideas. And I'm sharing culture. I'm sharing, um, I'm trying to challenge them to think about what they, grow as a person. I think you said at the very beginning something like that. We want to help them develop. How did you put that? Do you recall how you said at the beginning of this interview? Something like we want the tutors, the guru, to be not just a teacher of subjects, but
Yes.
character or something to that effect. Is that what you said?
Inspire them. Yes.
Yeah, and that's what.
That's very. Mhm.
Go.
Yeah, that's very important. I think, I mean, I don't want to bring up all again Asian students, or I don't want to stereotype them, but the problem is they always want it to be too perfect, and I think they're afraid of making mistakes. But actually, making mistakes is a way to grow. That's how you can really. You need to take risks to, you know, fail. You fail quickly. That's a startup model for many startup. Facebook, very successful startup. They're like fail quickly, Silicon Valley mindset. Extremely important for especially a lot of students, Gen Z students, because AI will advance so quickly that it will replace so many jobs. Whatever that human can do will be extremely important, especially in the future of education, including curiosity, empathy, a lot of EQ related things. And so memorization, taking one good exam, will not be as impactful as in the future. So I think we education, especially, we need to adopt for the future, because that will require for the future workforce to it will be necessity, it won't be optional. So I think it's very important for them to think ahead of the time, stop being rigid. You have to be adaptable, and we have to transition quickly.
Okay, I maybe you'll be a little glad to hear that in my classes, it's in the context of English speaking, it is all about trying to nurture that idea of don't be scared to make mistakes. You're going to get a
Wow.
score. You want to get a score in my class, you gotta go for it. You have to just vomit the thing I say to them. Just say it, whatever
Yeah.
comes, and then I don't care. And then we're going to work it out. We'll sort it out. And then as far as talking about their future and stuff, I do talk a lot about the soft skills that you're referring to versus
Mm,
hard skills in the future. You need to be able to communicate with people, to be able to think and deal with people, all those other things, the things you mentioned, because all the hard stuff, the AI is going to take care of it. Right now, of course, there are
exactly.
some other a lot of tech skills. If you can work with these things and develop these AI software and whatnot, everything on the hardware as well, whatever, then that's obviously good too. But for most people who aren't going to be doing that, then you need to be able to adapt and be resilient.
Yeah.
These are all soft skills you have to develop
Exactly.
by getting out there and failing, and even if it's just in an English class.
Yeah, your students are lucky to have you, man. I mean, not many teachers are open-minded like you, and you're a perfect example. Look at you doing the podcast, with people all over the world. That's a perfect example, like how, I believe that mentor or teacher need to show them an example. You can just tell them, you have to show by action. I mean, any leaders, any entrepreneurs, any founders, that's extremely important, because you cannot just put on the wall about the values and the vision of the company. The founder is, you have to show them. I think that's extremely important, and it goes back to teachers and tutors. You need to show them. If you want them to open their mind, you need to open your heart first. That's very important.
I got it. Yeah, I try to tell him. I'm Ajashi. That's an older, man in Korea. I'm Ajashi, but I'm not done. Like, this is not my career now. It's like, oh, you studied and you went to school, and then you became a teacher, and then I said, no, I came to Korea to see what was going on, because I had nothing going on, so I took a year to see what was up, and then I discovered there were opportunities, and then I'm here, and now I'm not done. I'm trying to do something else. So now I want to talk to people and connect with people and see what's going on. Just try to expand my scope of life, because I'm going to be working till I'm dead, right? So I'm not going to be sitting
Exactly.
at Hanjin University teaching classes, and students come to our home as well. If you don't know, we have my wife and I teach students in our home as
Oh,
well. The younger
wow.
ones, elementary and middle school as well. So
No, I can't already. I mean, I haven't. I won't. I'm obviously we're in a different places, so I can't meet you, but I can feel your positive energy. I think that's so important. I think uh, at the end, you need one person to really impact your life. Someone who has a growth mindset, someone can see your potential, someone really care about you, who want you to think big. That's so important. So I think a lot of students struggle. Like I ask myself too, where is my mentor? Where can I find that person? But I think that of course you need to try different ways to meet them. But if you meet one, you really need to try to build a relationship for long term, because that person can really change your life.
All right, Scott, great. I want to move on to something, the Korean military service. Anyway, I find that's a fascinating topic. I think if you have still some time, do you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Oh, great. Excuse me. I just think it's a fascinating topic for listeners because it's obviously a very foreign concept to people who are outside of Korea, right? This idea, and I try to communicate it sometimes to people at home, and not often. And also, I try to communicate with people in Korea to learn about it. So my students, I can learn a bit from them how they think about it. Older, or some of my ajashi friends and stuff who
Yeah.
talk about their experiences, I get it out of them, but I don't get the full thing. And I just think I have a great opportunity to have someone who's been exposed to American culture and Korean and your whole idea about it. So for listeners anyway, can you explain what Korean military service is, its basic requirements, etc., first of all?
Yeah, it's if you're a healthy young man, or I think older than a certain age, I forgot the
Maybe
specific
18,
age,
19,
but
and then
yeah,
there's a certain,
yeah, something like that. Usually they go after freshman year, sophomore year. I went to the army after my sophomore year. It's now 18 months. I think it's shortening down, but when I was there, it's a little less than 2 years. Um, I mean, it depends on where you are like assigned to. It's very, very different. It's from, DMZ, which is right next to Korea, or from, everywhere. So I cannot stereotype, once, so we make funny jokes like wherever you go, we say it's the hardest, like whatever you do.
yeah.
But that's true. But what I learned in the army is that is actually true. You think that whatever you do, it can be working at the cafeteria. It can be really just protecting the center in China. I mean, not China, in the mountain, like
Yeah.
outside. You always think that what you're doing is the hardest. We always make that like comment.
Uh-huh.
But at the end, if you think back, what that means is that it's all about the attitude, because it's not just only for the army. It's actually people do that in their job too. So my dad never told me to study hard. He's an entrepreneur that I really respect, because he really ground up everything. My grandparents came from North Korea. He struggled a lot, living with 6 other siblings, and he always say, "Don't you always keep your head up, be positive, and think. Don't think this is a hard, like don't think of this as a tough situation." And I think that mentality is extremely important, because people will always complain. If you start complaining, there's no end. But if you look at things as it's a learning opportunity, then this will be the learning opportunity. I think that's what I learned in the army. I'm like transitioning to learning
Yeah.
lessons from the army.
That's part of how I want to talk about it.
Yeah, two will be, I'm just thought about, just came up to my mind is what I learned in the army is, okay, like what I thought that is a big deal, actually it is not. So after 2 years, I look back, some things that I thought it's very like, oh man, I like, have a headache about. Actually, if I look back, I don't even remember. And the things like drinking, having fun, I mean, I don't even remember the conversation I had at the time. So I realized, okay, really, it's really important to spend time meaningfully, and don't worry about things that I will not even remember after 2 years. So I think that's the two I mean, there are many things like camaraderie, of course, discipline, making you it's like humble, because you see so many people who are very talented and hardworking, but they just don't have family support, so they struggle a lot. I'm very fortunate. What I learned is that I thought I really studied hard to get to where I'm just very fortunate. You have to appreciate and thankful for what you're given. So I think I learned a lot over 2 years, and it was the toughest moment in my life. Like, it was so cold that my nose was frozen. Um, it, and it's like, oh, I was like doing the training, and I thought, am I gonna die? I was that
Okay.
seriously like limit to, you know, what you can do, but it pushes you the limit, and it really makes you humble and disciplined. And I was really thankful because it really trained me to perform well in COVID, because I was stuck there. I couldn't go home for years. I couldn't take shower for 7 days because like the water was frozen.
Yeah.
There was tons of like uncomfortable situation comes to you, and really trained hard for like founding a startup or this kind of COVID situation.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
so
COVID's nothing, right? Look at you. I think you were winning with your buddies, though. I hear some stories about their thing. That's you said everybody's is the worst, but I mean that sounds pretty tough. Were you aware when you that when you first went to America at 16? Well, you went when you're 7, but when you went to 16 later, were you aware that this was a foreign concept in America? Or were you shocked that military service and that kind of thing? Like, were you aware that it wasn't quite normal in the rest of the world?
Yeah.
Like people would think, what do you do? What do you have to do? Like, were you surprised that people thought that, or do you go, no, of course you have to? Like,
I mean, I think it's pretty, except like Korea, Singapore, Israel, it's pretty foreign concept. So, I quickly realized that how they think, but as a I think it's my duty to serve. And as I mentioned, I'm so fortunate to come to even US to study and have this amazing opportunity to start a company. So I promise myself that I have to don't avoid, but a lot of people do, surprisingly. But
I was gonna ask you about that. Why did you decide to fulfill your service? Just because, I mean, you were in the States and you realize, I've got a talent for entrepreneurship. You could probably envision that you could be successful in the country. So maybe you could just not. So what made you complete your service?
At the time, Korea is a small country, and we were invaded by Japan, China, many other countries, where our ancestors sacrifice their lives to protect. If you think about it, it's a miracle that Korea exists, because China is so big, Russia is so big, and Korea is such a small country, but we survived, and we were able to protect ourselves, and they really sacrificed their lives to do so. For me to avoid less than 2 years, I think it was really not acceptable to me. Obviously, when I got into the army, I regretted. I'm like, oh, what am I doing here? But honest, that's like like I'm like packing my clothes, like I'm like shaving all my hair. It's like, and they're yelling at me. Obviously, I'm like, oh, did I make a right decision? But at the time when I was going into the army, I thought that was my obligation for the ancestor who sacrificed their lives.
I get it. Okay. I mean, and that's something, and I don't want to, I'm not here to like challenge the whole thing all the time, but just how I look at it today, I've heard that before, that people say, well, I never actually heard about the historical perspective and that I owe it to them. It's more about, oh, well, we have North Korea, and we're, there's a history of invasion in Korea, history of invasion and survival. And it's just it's a fascinating history. And it does influence the culture today for sure, how people feel about like the underdog type, us versus the world type mentality. But as far as like what happens today, I feel like sometimes it's it's not even about going and preparing and getting ready for stuff. Sometimes you can do other things, like if you win a medal, then you don't have to do it, or you just go in an office if you can't dig it. So what I feel like is, why is going to Columbia and getting an education and building a business and doing that, why is that not service to your country? I think that it'd be a lot better for students, right? Or for students, I say, but young people who at those years at 20, 22, why not continue developing yourself and developing things that you want to work on, get a job? I think that that constitutes greater service in my view. So,
Gotcha.
you know what I mean? So I still think you could have it in that context. I feel like that's my, I'm not going to take advantage or waste this freedom that I've been given by my ancestors. I'm going to make the most of my life. But it is true already. It was a couple years when you were there. It's down to 18 months. So it's almost like we're trying to say like, yeah, well, I think it's getting pushed the other way. So we'll see. But I just feel like sometimes I see young people, they're in my classroom and they're like looking ahead to their lives. And I feel like, what the? And my students use it after freshman year. They're like, oh, so I'll see you next semester. They go, oh no, I'm going to the army. And I was like, oh, I see. Okay. And I go, well, and then I tell them, I'll tell you what though, to get it back to the positive part, I do tell them the things that you said. I said, look, as long as you got to go do this thing, go make something out of it. Go and take care of your health, read books, think, make connections. Just develop yourself while you're there. Make the most of what you can do. I still think they might do better if they can do other things, right? They could probably do more, but as long as you're there, make something out of it. You already mentioned humility. I guess I want to know more. What do you mean fully by the concept of humility, and why is that important to you?
I think humility directly related, as I mentioned, a growth mindset. That you can learn from every person, even a kid. So I'm a teacher, like a third grader, fifth grader teacher in my church on Sundays. And I learned so much from the kids. Even the kids, they think very, very outside of the box, the comments they make, what they learn at school, what they do. Really, I learned so much from them. And I think that every situation, if you are open-minded and be humble, every situation and every person you meet, everything you do, like even in the army, shoving shoving the ground, and like pulling the like grass or whatever, every experience can be a learning, you can be a learning experience. So I think that it's the growth mindset is extremely important, and you need to be humble to do that. And I think if you want to be a founder, of course the confidence is very important, obviously, because you think that you can change if you're especially tech founder, you think that you can change the world and make impact. But I think it's very, very important that you can be wrong. You can be wrong all the time. I think confidence, and so at the same time you have to be extremely humble, because you will be wrong more than hundreds of times when you're running a startup, because no one's perfect, situation changes all the time. And so I think the humility is extremely important, especially if you want to go to long run. In a short run, if you can be lucky, and then it can spike and you can hit some home run. But if you want to have a successful career or successful, entrepreneurship, in a long run, I think humility is extremely important. And it will help you to have people around you can trust when you have ups and downs. Mm-hmm. I think it's extremely important for everyone. But when you're, even though when I look back, I was so not humble. I have to be very honest. I was so just, but as I mentioned, startup is a humbling experience. You make so many mistakes and failures that you become more humble. I need to be more humble. I always tell myself, you have to always be more humble, but I think it's extremely important.
Okay, so I understand it now. As much as and obviously you have successes and build successes, it should lead you to be more confident about things. But at the end of the day, you should understand that you don't know everything. Even though you're doing very well, and you can even learn from kids, as you said, you can learn from anybody who you might view in a position that's of ignorance compared to you. But it's like, no, you can learn something from everybody. And I think, is that maybe more what you mean than just,
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why corporates they fall behind. Kodak, you see that they are once a huge company, and because they weren't humble, they're comfortable where they are. They're making a lot of money, and then digital photograph comes, and then it just swiped. So in history, you learn a lot. This kind of patterns happen again and again, and humility. Obviously, if you're pushed for innovation, humility is extremely important, because an intern's idea can be the best idea. At the end of the day, best idea matters. It's not about my idea. It's not about executives' ideas. It's about which best idea works. And it can be a high school grad. It doesn't matter. I mean, Instagram story came from an intern in Facebook, So I think leadership has to be very humble, and I mean, at the end of the day, especially for our company, education company, it's for our students and also parents to educate parents to know better about their children. So I think we just always have to be humble to make the best service for our students and parents.
Got it. Got all that one. Great. What is a Compassion International, and how did you come to sponsor 6 children?
So currently 8, but
okay, I got the wrong bio. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. I always wanted to sponsor. It's a Christian organization. I always wanted to sponsor them because they helped Korea. One of the organizations helped Korea a lot after Korean War, and we are the first country who are giving back now after getting help from Compassion. Okay. So I think I sponsored the first kid when I got the first check from JP Morgan, and helped the student in Indonesia. Now our Indonesian partnership has been flourishing. So that I thought that was really, I was very thankful for that. But I think that it's the most meaningful way to give back. I think $30. I mean, in New York City, it's just a lunch or dinner, and for those money can really help students to provide Medicare and education. I'm so thankful for that, and I think that help that we got after Korean War, because of those help, we were able to, recover quickly. And a lot of people were struggling. A lot of people weren't able to even eat. So I think we cannot forget their help. I think we always have to remember, and I think we always have to give back, and I think that's very important to me.
Scott, before I ask people where they can find out more about you and I say a final word, I'd like to share with the audience the idea to please share this interview. You've heard Scott. This is a very inspiring example of someone who has faced a lot of, going to a new country when he's young, and just working to achieve a vision of his. So if you know somebody who would be inspired by this interview or would otherwise enjoy it, please share it with them. You can ask other questions if you don't like. I missed a question you want to ask Scott. Go ahead and ask him a question right in the comments section, or you can go to the Facebook page at Mr. Brightside, facebook.com/MatthewBolton.ca. Scott, where should people go if they want to connect and learn more about you, Gooroo, or anything else that you care about?
Yeah, of course. You can always reach out to me at scott@gooroo.com. I love, it will be virtual coffee chat because of COVID, but, I love meeting people for coffee chat. And, if there's anything I can help you with, I'm happy to help. I'm here because so many people helped me throughout the journey. And so, yeah, feel free to send me an email. If you have any questions, I'm happy to chat with you. And I look forward to hearing from you.
Excellent, Scott. So everybody else, the life Scott has built was not handed to him, and we might all imagine how we felt moving to a foreign country when we're young and not a native speaker of the language like he was. I hope you've been inspired by his passion and drive to take action in your own life and to help shape the world in the image of your values. I'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, no, I'm really thankful that, you're inspiring so many Korean students. We need like, mentor, instruct, teacher like you. So I'm really thankful that you're in Korea. I really admire what you do, and yeah, if let's keep in touch, Matt.
Yeah, and well, I'm going to use you as an example because you're an example of a Korean who's doing like this is what you guys should look at, guys. Like your life does not have to be. I think a lot of them are stuck thinking that their life has to be a certain way.
Mr. Brightside, your time out to refresh, refuel, and refocus your mind and energy toward building an optimistic framework for flourishing. Life is good. It's up to you to choose the bright side.